My wife secretly runs a Facebook group called Anonymous Wives of Mediocre Men, and somehow, I am the headline act. Thousands of members' weekly posts, and every rant, every sarcastic breakdown of a husband who thinks he's amazing was about me. I found it by accident on her laptop. What I thought was a joke turned out to be a massive private arena where wives dissected their husbands' flaws, how they kissed, breathed, folded towels. Then I saw her initials, her voice, her stories, mine, charts, polls, even a diagram mocking the way I performed masculinity. Thousands of women laughing along. I didn't confront her. I infiltrated. I created a fake profile, invented a fictional husband, and earned my way into the group. Suddenly, I had access to everything she'd ever written about me, the likes, the comments, the private jokes, crowning me king of the mediocre men. What she never imagined was that I'd start replying. Not as myself, not directly, but in subtle, coded messages that only she would feel. And that's how our silent war began, her mocking a man she thought was clueless, and me reading every word, watching, responding from the shadows. I didn't explode. I retaliated quietly, strategically. But what happened next changed everything. By week 2, I was not just spying. I was studying her. 63 posts about me, cropped photos I still recognized. Inside details she disguised with the bland name Harold. She didn't just joke about me. She dissected me like a failed experiment in manhood. One post crushed me. Why does mediocrity feel so smug? She described, the night I made spaghetti, how I looked proud for doing the bare minimum. I remembered candles, laughter. I thought she was happy. Meanwhile, 4,700 people agreed I was the problem, so I leaned into it. I became Harold. I exaggerated the habits she mocked, then anonymously validated her posts from inside the group. She agreed with me. She bonded with me. She had no idea. Then she wrote something that wasn't sarcastic. It was honest. She fantasized about getting in her car and just driving away. Not because she hated me, but because she felt invisible. That's when the anger drained out and fear took its place. Still undercover, I asked the group if anyone ever felt guilty. What if their husbands were trying? The response was brutal. Trying isn't changing. And then my wife answered, trying means nothing if he never actually sees me. That broke me, because she was right. For 3 days, I disappeared from the group, from the game. I couldn't keep reading, not after realizing the real war wasn't online. It was the quiet collapse happening inside my marriage. Every word in that group became a mirror, distorted, but painfully true. So instead of fighting back, I started paying attention. I watched my wife like I was meeting her for the first time. The tightness in her face when I interrupted her, the quiet sighs, the silence on the couch that felt heavier than any argument. She wasn't cruel. She was distant. And I didn't know when I'd lost her. I tried to change in small, quiet ways. No grand gestures, no husband points, but it felt formal, polite, like we were strangers sharing a house. Then one morning, she left her phone on the counter. A notification from the group popped up. Someone had asked her if she'd ever actually talked to her husband, or if she was just waiting for him to read her mind. Another woman suggested maybe he wasn't a villain, just lost. My wife hadn't replied. That crack of possibility was enough. That night, I made one final post in the group, this time as myself, anonymous, but honest. I asked what a mediocre man should do if he finally realized the woman he loves feels invisible beside him. The comments were harsh except one. Write her a letter, no excuses, just truth. It was from my wife, so I did. 4 handwritten pages. I confessed everything, finding the group, pretending to be someone else, believing I was a good husband simply because I wasn't a bad one. I admitted I had loved the version of her I married, not the woman she was becoming, and I told her I was afraid I didn't know her anymore. I left the letter on her pillow and walked out. Hours later, I came home to the sound of the shower running. I sat on the bed, heart pounding, staring at the crumpled envelope. When she stepped out, her eyes were red but not angry. She looked at me and asked quietly, "Was it really you?" I nodded when she asked if I'd read everything. She didn't post to be cruel. She just didn't know how to tell me the truth without breaking us. The truth was, I'd already broken us. I just hadn't noticed. Then she said the sentence, I'll never forget. You weren't a bad husband. You were a stranger who thought he knew me. So instead of apologizing again, I asked what I should have asked years ago. What do you need me to see? Her answer came in a whisper. She hadn't been happy for a long time. First she was tired, then numb, then she started screaming in places I couldn't hear, like that Facebook group. It was never meant to destroy me, she said. It was a pressure valve. But it did destroy me, and she didn't deny that maybe I needed to be destroyed a little, because I confused being decent with being present. When I finally asked if she wanted to leave, she said, I don't know. That hurt more than a yes. For the first time in years, she said, I was listening. I promised to keep listening. But she reminded me I'd been inside the group too, watching, manipulating, never stopping her pain. She was right. I didn't deserve to stop her. She left for her sister's house with a bag that had clearly been packed before my letter. Before walking out, she said, if this change is real, don't prove it with flowers. Prove it by staying uncomfortable. After she left, the house felt hollow, not peaceful, but exposing. I found boxes of her things already packed. Books about identity and loneliness, underlined in ink. Pieces of her life that had been growing while I stood still. Even her old love notes told a story. Early years full of passion, later ones shorter, polite, fading. She hadn't stopped loving me. I'd stopped listening. 2 days later, I got a private message from the group moderator. They knew I had infiltrated. My account was removed. The moderator's message was blunt. I had violated their trust. Whatever pain I felt, I didn't get to process it there, not after infiltrating their space. They were right, so I deleted the account and closed the tab for good. Then I did something harder. I started writing not to the group, but to my wife, 1 letter a day while she was gone. Honest, unfiltered, not to win her back, just to finally say what I'd never said when it mattered. I wrote about who she used to be, who I'd become, and how ashamed I was of confusing good with loving. I admitted I wasn't just afraid of losing her, I was afraid of the man I was without her. On the 6th letter, I heard the key in the door. She hadn't planned to come back, but she couldn't stop thinking about my letter or the anonymous post in the group. After reading my confession, she recognized my voice in it. A line I'd once written in a card gave me away. I hated you for being in that group, she said. But you finally saw me. That wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even a promise. She didn't know if she wanted to stay, but for the first time in years, she felt like I was actually in the room with her. She noticed the stack of letters, one for every day she'd been gone. She wasn't ready to read them yet, but she would. Then she asked something unexpected. Therapy. Not just couples therapy, individual therapy first. For both of us. I agreed without hesitation. She stayed that night, but not in our bed, the guest room. We moved around each other quietly, like survivors after an earthquake. Not rebuilt, not safe, but no longer pretending the ground hadn't cracked beneath us. We were still bracing for aftershocks. I made tea, she accepted. We sat at opposite ends of the couch, not speaking, but the silence wasn't sharp anymore. It was honest. The next morning, she left early with a quiet see you later, taking the first 2 letters with her. That alone felt like progress. I booked a therapist that day, not to impress her, because I finally saw the man she'd been writing about. Not a villain, just a husband who had become invisible in his own marriage. In our first session, the therapist asked, "When did you stop being curious about your wife?" I had no answer. Somewhere between anniversaries and routine, I'd assumed she would always be there. That night she came home softer, still tired but less guarded. She'd read the first letter. It hurt, she said, but it felt real. She sat closer this time. We tried watching a movie we once loved. She fell asleep halfway through, her head tilted slightly toward me but not touching. I didn't move. Later that week, she started writing too. She didn't show me the pages. I didn't ask. Healing, I realized, isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's restraint. That weekend, she invited me for a walk. No phones, 3 blocks in silence before she mentioned Florence, how alive and present I used to be. How I used to look at her like she was the only thing in the room. I want to know if that version of you still exists, she said. I wasn't sure, but I wanted to find him. I began waking early, writing through memories. I brushed off the no-screens dinners I joked about. The times she said she wasn't tired but emotionally drained, and I dismissed it. She hadn't been tired of life. She'd been tired of me. Then one Thursday, she came home and found me at the table, typing quietly. "What are you writing?" she asked. "Just untangling things," I said. She nodded, walked past me, then paused, and placed a folded piece of paper beside my laptop. "I wrote back," she said, and walked away. Her letter was only half a page. She didn't know if she wanted to stay. She was afraid that trying again would turn her back into the woman who tolerated being unseen. But she also said she saw me now, not the man she used to beg for attention from, but someone sitting in his discomfort and not running. It wasn't everything, but it mattered. I read it 3 times. Then I cried quietly, the way you do when you forgiven more than you deserve. That night, she didn't sleep in the guest room. She stood in our doorway and said, "I'm not here to fix anything. I just don't want to sleep alone." We lay side by side, not touching, just breathing in sync. It wasn't romance. It was recognition, 2 cracked people, wondering if something new could grow from the fault lines. She suggested a rule, 1 hour every Sunday. No phones, no defensiveness, just truth. We called it the hour. The first was messy, the second, steadier. By the third, we were speaking like 2 people choosing to meet again. By the fourth, we asked the questions we avoided for years. "When did you stop being curious about me?" she asked. "When did you decide I could handle your truth?" I replied. Her answer took us back to the night she said she hated her job. I offered a vacation instead of attention, a solution instead of presence. I never even looked up from my laptop. I didn't need fixing, she said softly. I needed a witness. And for the first time, I understood the difference. Her words hit like a brick. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It carried years of things we never said. Then she brought up the Facebook group. "I am not angry anymore," she said. I was furious. But maybe it was the only way this would happened. "You mean me waking up?" I asked. She shook her head. "Us waking up." That stunned me. She admitted she'd been performing too, pretending our routines were enough, pretending my compliments filled the gaps. Part of her, she confessed, wanted someone to see how lonely she was. She just never expected that someone to be me. "I am not saying we okay," she said. "But maybe we not doomed." It was the first time she wasn't just enduring me, she was letting me see the real her. Not the curated version I clung to, but the complicated, bruised woman who had learned to protect herself. And for the first time, I wasn't trying to go back. I was learning who she was now. A few weeks later, something small and enormous happened. She laughed. A real laugh. We were cleaning up when I fumbled a plate, and it skidded across the counter. The sound startled her into genuine, unfiltered laughter. I froze. I hadn't heard that sound in months. "I used to laugh all the time, didn't I?" she asked. "You did. Do you think I stopped because of you?" I chose my words carefully. "I think you stopped because you didn't feel safe being light anymore, and I didn't notice soon enough to ask why." She didn't argue. She didn't look away. That night, we sat together watching a documentary about a couple restoring a crumbling estate. One line lingered. "Some structures aren't ruined. They just waiting to be understood differently." That felt like us. In therapy, I admitted I was afraid of slipping back into the man who thought being not cruel was the same as being loving. My counselor told me something that unsettled me. Shame can wake you up, but it can be the foundation of change. And I realized I could rebuild us out of guilt. If this was going to last, it had to be built on something stronger than fear of losing her. I realized guilt could be my only fuel, so I stopped trying to prove I was better and started trying to be honest. I told her when I was overcorrecting, when I was afraid she'd never trust me again, when I still caught myself wanting praise, just for showing up, and she listened, sometimes guarded, sometimes in tears, but she listened. One night, she gave me a letter of her own. "I don't miss who you were," it said, "but I'm starting to like who you re-becoming, and I think I might like who I am becoming too." It wasn't a promise, but it was hope chosen, not assumed. I began to understand trust differently, not a switch, a sunrise, slow, almost invisible at first, until one day the room is too dark anymore. She started leaving her notebook open. I never read it. The fact that she didn't hide it was enough. There were setbacks. One night during our Sunday hour, I interrupted her. Instinct. She shut down and left the room. The old me would have chased her, defended myself. Instead, I waited. The next morning, I slipped a note under her door. "I am still learning. When you re-ready, I'll listen without defending or needing to be right." That night, she sat close again, shoulder brushing mine, still choosing. Then, in a grocery store aisle, she picked up artichoke hearts. "Since when do you like those?" I asked. "Always," she said. "You never asked." There it was. The quiet truth of years spent beside someone I hadn't truly known. "Then tell me now," I said. She smiled. "Because they recomplicated. You have to peel away so much to get to the good part." It wasn't about the artichokes. Later, at home, she surprised me again. "I didn't think you'd make it this far," she admitted. "You stopped asking for reassurance. You just started showing up." That night I asked, half joking, "Do you still think I am mediocre?" She considered it. "I think you were. Now, I don't know what you are yet. And honestly, that's the first time you've intrigued me in years." 2 months after I found the group, we were still walking the tightrope between redemption and loss, still choosing curiosity over comfort. Then, during one of our hours, she asked quietly, "What did you think I was going to do after you found the posts?" And I realized I'd never really let myself answer that. At first, I thought she'd fall apart, deny everything, or walk out. Instead, she stayed calm, almost cold, like she'd already accepted losing me. And the truth, she had. "The worst part wasn't that you read it," she told me. "It's sat that I'd been screaming into a void for years, and you were the void." That landed deeper than any insult. She wasn't trying to wound me. She was finally done softening the truth. She said she was watching now, waiting to see if I could become something other than emptiness. The next morning, I made her coffee. No speech, no performance. Just the way she liked it finally. She didn't thank me. She drank it. Then she did something that terrified me. She invited me to her therapy session, not to reconcile, to witness. Sitting there, hearing her describe me, not cruel, not violent, just absent, felt like listening to my own eulogy. "There's a special loneliness," she told the therapist, "in being with someone who thinks they redoing enough just because they not hurting you." I didn't defend myself. For once, I just listened. Afterward, she said I was brave. I told her I was just overdue, and for the first time in months, she reached for my hand. Not fireworks, just fingertips. But it was real. Nothing magically fixed itself after that. We still slipped. She still tested the air between us. I still tried to fix things too fast, but now we named it. We didn't let silence rot into resentment. One night she admitted her biggest fear, that she might become the version of herself who tolerated me. I told her not to. "Challenge me," I said, "even if it hurts." And I meant it the next day too, because love was becoming less of a feeling and more of a daily discipline. Months passed. 5 of them before we stopped measuring progress in apologies. Somewhere along the way, we stopped trying to return to what we were, and started building something we never had. She left the Facebook group quietly. "I needed it when I felt voiceless," she said. "Now I want to say things where they matter." And she did. To me, we walked. We talked. I learned more about her in those months than in our first 5 years of marriage. I stopped trying to earn approval and started practicing presence, holding her words without fixing them, apologizing without demanding forgiveness in return. We still argued, still got tired, but we caught the cracks together. One night in bed, she said softly, You're not the main character anymore." I didn't know how to take that until she smiled. And neither am I. That S when I understood. We weren't T-hero and villain anymore. Not background characters in each other's stories. We were co-authors. There was no grand turning point, just quiet mornings, shared jokes, open notebooks, a steady kind of love. So when people ask if I ever confronted her about what she wrote, if I made her answer for it, I tell them no. She already carried the weight. The better question is this: